Hi there, all you internet people. With an audience of thousands. Okay. We're going to get started in just a minute.
Okay, now we're 100%. My mic's back, my mic's on.
Wow, we were operating on 60%. Well, 40%. Your mic is out, over half of the show is gone.
Yeah, hey, Shabbat Zachor.
Yeah, I forget what that's about.
I'll tell you what I remember. It was my Danielle's bat mitzvah.
Oh, Zachor?
Zachor, yeah.
I did a B'nai mitzvah. It was a pair of twins in Youngstown for Zachor.
I remember.
The things to remember. Well, hey there, internet people. Good morning. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I thought we'd talk a little bit today about, since we already talked about the ending of the service, we talked about Aleinu, and we talked about Kaddish, and we talked about the Musaf that comes right before Aleinu. We talked about Ein Keloheinu that goes in between the two of them. So I thought we'd start at the other end, and we'd take a look at what do you do before. So we'll spend a couple of weeks on this. We'll be talking about what to do at home and what to do when you get into the synagogue. But many of you are very familiar with these things with some of them at least, from your days in Hebrew school. Remember that, Hebrew school? Yeah, I know, nobody liked it. Don't get me started. But we tend to remember things like Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabba emunatecha. Modeh ani. In the Amida, there's a modim anachnu lach. Modim, we acknowledge and we thank you. It's from, I believe, the same root as todah, the dalid there. So modeh or modah ani lefanecha. I admit before you, I acknowledge, I thank you. Melech chai v'kayam, ever living God. King, ever-living King, shechazarta bi nishmati, that you return to me my soul. This is what you say when you wake up, and you're in that liminal state between sleep and awakeness, and you're sort of like negotiating your path. But here's where you get it set straight. You've restored to me my soul, nishmati, bechemla, with mercy, forgiveness. What's it say here? Restore me. How great is your faithfulness? No. They don't really translate it. Kindness. This is an Ashkenazi prayer. It's composed in the late Middle Ages, specifically to be recited upon opening the eyes in the mornings, since it was to be said before getting out of bed even. And before you wash your hands. It doesn't include the name of God, so you don't have to have your head covered. Eliezer Schweid, a philosopher Israeli. Well, the last part of his life was in Israel. I got to meet him. He says that this and other prayers in the section are phrased in the first person singular. Thank you for me. But this is pretty rare. You're not in a community yet. You haven't joined the other people at Minyan. This is just you waking up. Most of the blessings, you'll notice, are in the plural, the we, anachnu, us, otanu. But at home, when you're by yourself, even if you have a house full of kids, you don't necessarily have a minyan there yet. So you're kiyachid, you're an individual. So at this initial moment of prayer, we have not, yeah, exactly what I said. Okay. Soul. Now, the soul is a tricky concept in Hebrew. Nishama. Jewish mystics view the soul as an actual part of God. That which God blows into Adam is the presence of God's own self. Nothing humans can do will eradicate this divine presence from the deepest recesses of each person's heart. I'm reading from the Siddur Lev Shalem, the newer conservative prayer book, but this is a quote from Arthur Green. Arthur Green used to be the head of the Reconstructionist College in Pennsylvania. And he writes some very nice stuff, very, very nice stuff. Now, according to the rabbis, sleep is a taste of death. So when we get up in the morning, we recognize the gift of a new day. Again, we're quoting here Eliezer Schweid. He says, how does God appear to a person at this time when you're in that liminal conscious, not quite unconscious state? As the source of all existent and external life flowing now into all creation, you become aware of your place in the world. The last bracha we said before going to sleep says something about the Lord who lights up the entire world with your glory. Waking in the morning, the whole world is now obvious to you again because the sun has come up and you can see it, and that fulfills the blessing that you said before going to sleep. So, okay, there are a few things where, next week I want to do the Birchot HaShachar. Oh, here we go. So, but today I just wanted to sort of clear a little ground before we get to Birchot HaShachar. And we thank God for the gift of our souls. Elohai neshamat shenatata bi tohorahi. God, the soul that you put in me is pure. And Dale Schatz has a nice tune for this. You know. Do you have a tune for Elohai neshama?
Yeah. What page is it on?
90, well,
Oh, I'll find it.
I'll tell you exactly.
It's on page 63. Elohai, Elohai, second paragraph.
Right.
Neshama, Neshama, Shenatata bi, Shenatata bi, Tihorahi, Tihorahi.
Very pretty, very nice.
It's a nice, and when he would sing it, I would like to harmonize with it.
Yeah, yeah.
You can try that. You and I? Why not? This for you at the crowd, for you at home. Harmonize.
Okay.
Elohai,
Elohai, Nishama, Nishama, Shenatata bi, Shenatata bi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Not so much harmony as melody, but
Yeah, but But still,
well,
two voices are usually better than one.
I'll go along with that. It's not good for a man to be alone.
It's not good for a melody to be alone.
No, the melody needs a little harmony, a rhythm section, and some hipsters in the back snapping their fingers. That's how I grew up. So anyway, there's a whole prayer here about the soul. You know, now that you've acknowledged that God's given it back to you after a bout with the dark forces at night, and you were thankful for the gift of the soul, and immediately following that, in this book, but preceding it in other Sidurim, like the one we have, is being thankful for the gift of the body. Now, this is the gift of the body is the gift of a working body. It says, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chachma. You know, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, or sovereign of the universe, I guess is the more correct way to say that now. Asher yatzarta adam b'chachma, who formed the human being with wisdom. Uvaravo, and created within him, nekevim, chalulim, openings and passageways. Galui v'yadua, revealed and known before lifnei kisei kavodecha, before the throne of your glory. I thought that was a little bit of humor there. She'im yifateach echad mehem, that if one of them should open, o yisatem echad mehem, or one of them should close when it should be open, or open when it should be closed. Efshar, impossible, lehitkayim v'la'amod lefanecha. It's impossible to stand before you. And the Sfardim add the words, afilu sha'achat, even for just one moment. Sha'ah means an hour, but originally it meant a moment. So then, Baruch atah Adonai rofei kol basar mafli la'asot, that's a line from Psalms. I'm wondering if they attribute it. I don't see it here, but it, you know, as in many of the chatimot, the sealing sentence of a prayer, you find a quote from frequently Psalms or another book in the Bible.
The comment you made is about sha'ah, meaning a moment, and then somehow developing into mean an hour, just made me think of something funny. The etymology of that word is probably someone said, let me speak just for a moment, and then an hour later.
Probably some rabbi.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so these are all things that you say before you leave home, and when you get into the synagogue, you're supposed to say, Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, how goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your sanctuaries, people of Israel. I'm not sure where that is in your Siddur.
It's probably like even before 63.
I'm not.
It's on page 61, right after Modeh Ani.
Okay.
Matovu.
Oh, that, yeah. See, the order of things is a constant bone of contention. Some people like things in certain ways. You know, they put the blessing for the thanking of the body before the soul. Some people put it after. I'm not going to get too involved. I think the body actually is what you're thinking about when you wake up. You want to get somewhere quick and hope it works. The older I get, the more I appreciate this blessing. But you might still be like wrestling with your soul that you just reclaimed. And that might be what's on your mind first. So it could go either way. So next time we're going to get into, okay, so we got Matovu and, okay. And then next week what we're going to do is we're going to get into those blessings, Birchot HaShachar, and those of you who have been with me for the alternative preliminary service will be able to help your friends out with some of these ideas because you've heard it from me, let's just say more than once. And now, Those of you who have not yet put on your talit, you can join me as I say the blessing and as I put on mine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehitatef batzitzit.
Amen.
And now we turn to page 65, and here's what we're going to talk about next week, but this is just a review because we do it every week. It's page 65, where are you? Page 65, there you go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech v'vina lehavchin ben yom uven laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani ben chorim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish sharumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokach haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shesali kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten le'yaif koach. Amen ve'amen. And we'll continue on page, let's see here. Page 72. And just a little taste of Friday night here.
And
I
a
think
reminder that next Friday night we will be live.
We will be doing this very, not this very service, but this very function.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. this Friday, be there. But this is the Psalm, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. We're going to go to 4 lines before the end of the Psalm for a little Tzaddik Katamar.
Tzaddik Katamar Yivrach Ke'erez Ba'Levanon Yizgah Shetulim B'Veit Adonai B'Chatzrot Eloheinu Yavrichu Od Yinuvun B'Seiva D'Sheinim V'Rananim Yiv L'Hagid Ki Yashar Adonai Shuri Shuri V'Lo Avladaba.
And on page 81, we're going to continue with the end of Psalm 30, one of the most uplifting psalms there is, or there are. And we talked about it earlier today, when you go to sleep and then you experience a sort of a little death, and then you wake up in the morning and things can look better. It's what I call the Scarlett O'Hara effect. Tomorrow is another day. But this is the psalm that all those ideas come from. הפקת מספרי למחולי, פיתחת שקי ותעזרני שמחה, למען יזמך כבוד ולא ידום, אדוני אלוהי לעולם עודך. You transform my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robes of joy, that I might sing your praise unceasingly, that I might thank you, Adonai my God, forever. And now, should we assume we have 10 people watching?
Yeah.
Okay. Mourner's Kaddish, for those who need it, either those in mourning or observing a yurt site, page 82. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'olma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chaye echon u'v'yom echon u'v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'gala v'zman kari v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach li'olam olomei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amirom v'yoma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. And now, if it's comfortable for you, you're invited to rise. Page 83, Baruch She'amar. Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu, Baruch Oseh v'reshit, Baruch Omer v'yoseh, Baruch Gozer u'mekayim, Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al habriot, Baruch mishalem zachar tov l'reav, Baruch chai la'ad v'kayam lanetzach, Baruch bodeh u'matzil, Baruch Shemo. And 3 lines from the bottom, in the middle. Yachid che'olami melech mishabachim fo'ardei ad shemo hagadol, Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal batishbacho. And we will continue on page 85, at the bottom of the page. Romimu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. Romimu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romimu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romimu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. Romimu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. And we will proceed on page 88. Psalm 34, and this is an acrostic psalm. It's in alphabetical order. It's missing, what was the Vav, I think. Just like Ashrei is an acrostic missing the Nun. Yeah. I don't know if they're all like that, but I know that they're not. Psalm 119 is the big acrostic. It's like 8 lines on each letter.
Wow.
It's the longest one.
Is that missing anything?
I don't think it's missing a letter.
Okay.
I think the guy who wrote it was missing some sleep.
Yeah.
But you know what it's good for is like sometimes it's like Shiva minions or little classes, you spell out someone's name, and this gives you like possibilities for each letter.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this acrostic on page 88, Psalm 34, there's some tunes in here that you know. You've heard us do it before. Go down to the Gimel, for example. Gadlu Adonai iti u'neromema shemo yachtav. And you go down to the Yud. Yiru et Adonai kedoshav ki ein machzor li'reav kefirim rashu v'ra'evu v'dorshei Adonai lochzuchotov. and then a song that was very popular in Israel a number of years ago, at the Mem. Mi ha'ish chafetz chaim, ohev yamim liroto, nitzor lishon chamera, ושפתיך מדבר מרמה, סור מרע ויעשה טוב, בקש שלום ורדפהו. מי האיש החפץ חיים, אוהב ימים לראות. And who knows, maybe we can mine that for some more sometime. We're going to continue now on page 92. And we'll do the second 4 lines and the last 4 lines. So we're starting with Losei HaShamayim. Losei HaShamayim bidvuna ki li olam chasto k'haaretz al hamayim ki li olam chasto seorim gidolim ki li olam chasto et shemesh yom ki li olam chasto שבשפלנו זכר לנו לעולם חסדו, ויפרקנו מצערנו לעולם חסדו. נותן לחם לכל בשר כי לעולם חסדו. השמיים כי לעולם חסדו. We got to work out the scanning on that et hashemesh v'lememshelet bayom. I'll take total responsibility for that. Okay, now we're continuing on page 96 and 97, the beginning and the ending of Ashrei. They say if you say Ashrei 3 times a day, you're guaranteed a place in the world to come. That and I guess $4.95 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
I think if the rabbi said if you say Ashrei 3 times a day, you're guaranteed a vaccine, more people will say it.
Yeah, I think that would probably have more meaning.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veitech Ka'odi Hallelu Chasela Ashrei Am Shekach Halo Ashrei Am Shadonai Eloham Tila David.
Tilachat Adonai Yidaber Bi V'Yivarech Kol Basar Shem Koshel Elam Va'ed V'Anachnu Nevarech Yah Me'ata V'Yad Olam Hallelujah.
And we'll go down to the bottom of page 97. Yimloch Adonai li'olam Elohai Tzion Lidor Vador Hallelujah. And on page 99, 5 lines from the bottom of Psalm 148. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai Ki nishgav shemo levado Hodo al eretz v'shamayim Vayarem keren li'amo Tehila l'chol chasidam Livnei Yisrael am kerovo Hallelujah, hallelujah. last of the Psalms, Psalm 150, on page 100. Hallelujah, 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 bikocho, luhu birkiyahu zo, hallelujah, vigvurotav, hallelujah, kirov gulo, hallelujah, b'teikasho, hallelujah, b'nevel v'chinor, hallelujah, b'tov u'machol, hallelujah, b'minim v'ugav, hallelujah, v'tziltzilei shama, hallelujah, v'tziltzilei truah, kol ha'neshama hallelujah, 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 kol ha'neshama hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. And we continue on page 101. It's traditional to stand. You're invited to do so if it's comfortable for you. Third line down. Lecha Adonai hagidula v'hagivura v'tiferet v'netzach v'hahod ki chol v'shamayim u'va'aretz ki chol v'shamayim u'va'aretz Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamitnaseh lechol rosh. Okay. And we are going to go, we're going to do on page 102, the Song of the Sea. I think the whole reason that we stand for this entire unit is because of this. We couldn't be sitting when we crossed through the sea. We had to be on our feet. So we get on our feet now and imagine what it was like to have walls of water on either side of you, or a jug of water nearby. אז ישיר משה ובני ישראל את השיר הזאת לאדוני ויאמרו לאמור השיר לאדוני כי גאו גאל סוס ורבו רמה וים עוזי וזמריה ויהי לי לישועה זה אלי ענווהו אלוהי אביבי ארומנו אדוני איש מלחמה אדוני שמו מרכבות פרעה חילו ירה בים ומבחר של אישה ובים סוף. And we will continue on page 104, the top of the middle section. Ilufinu male shira, shira kayamu, shonen rina kamon galav. Ilufinu male shira, shira kaya shonen uri nakamon galav. Ilufinu male shira kaya shonen uri nakamon galav. Come on, Gala. Come on, Gala. Come on, Gala. We continue on page 105, 3 lines before the end of the first paragraph. Nehalechu u'nshebecha u'nefarecha u'nevarecha Shem kodshecha ka'amor leDavid bar Chinashi et Adonai v'kol karovai et Shem kodsho. Ha'el b'tatzumot uzecha, ha'gadol b'kvod shemecha, ha'gibor l'netzach v'hanora b'noratecha, ha'melech ha'yoshev, ha'kisei ram v'nisa. Page 105, third paragraph, Shochenad.
Shochenad maram v'kadosh shemo.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo.
V'chadu Rananu Tzadikim Badonai Sharim Navatila B'fi Shanim Didala Uvedivrei Tzadikim Didbarach Uvilujad Chazidim Didrama V'kerev Kedoshim Didgadash U'makala Didvad Amcha B'Yisrael Lihodaho la shabeach velamehim lehadel varech lalele kales Hakodi reish yod v'dish bechot David ben Ishai avdecha mishichecha
You are invited to rise, page 106, Yishtabach.
Yishtabach shimcha malkin Birachad v'adad me'atav yad olam baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
El me'elach kol batish b'achad El ha'odad Adonai nivlod Habagel v'zilri zimra melech El chei olamim
Amen.
Yitgadav shemir rabah
Amen.
V'yabahad v'rach rodei v'yamelech ma'udei B'chayecha v'yomecha v'chayidecha v'Yisrael Ba'agala ba'agala v'dizmar gari v'imrel
Amen.
Yishmei rabba mivorach v'yolam olam me'olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach Yitbar v'yitma v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal Shemei dekudeshah
Richu.
Leila mikol birlachata v'shirada Tushbechata v'nechemata Ta'amiran v'yalema v'imrel Amen.
Page 107, remain standing for the Baruch.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. Please join me at the beginning of the first of two blessings before the Shema. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorei choshech osei shalom uvorei et hakol. We continue to the bottom of 107 on our own.
HaKadosh HaBakol Yishav Kadosh HaBakol Yishav Kadosh Kadosh Kadosh
Page 108, El Adon.
El Adon Kol HaMasim Baruch Mevarach Beviko Neshama Galo V'tuho Malei Olam Da'ad V'tuvuna Sovevi Moto Hamid Goel Chayot HaKodesh V'nedar B'chavod Ala Mekava Zechu Dumishor Lifnei Chiso Chesed V'rachamim Lifnei Chivodo Todim me'orav shebara Eloheinu Yitzaram V'dan V'vinau v'azgel Koach u'gvura natan bahem V'yod mozim b'keref tevel Le'im ziv v'vikim nogam Na'em zivam b'chol ha'olam Semechim b'tzeitam v'sasim b'voam Ozim b'yeim arizon konam
פאר וחבו נותנים לשמו זהלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרחו והקים צורות הבנה שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום תפארת וגדולה שבים ועובדים וחיות הקודש. And we read the top two paragraphs on 109 to ourselves. We're on page 110.
כולם הודים, כולם בבלים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים עימה. ופירה רצון גדולה, וכולם הולכים את פיהם. בקדושה וטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, מברכים ושבחים. ומפארים מעריצים ומקדישים וממליכים. את שם האל המלך הגדול, הגיבור הנורא הקדוש הוא. בנחת רוח, בזמר ובנימה, קדוש הגולם גאה אדוני ויומים בירה. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך הארץ גדולו. עבדים וחיות הקודש, ראש גדול מנסים למצרבים. ומדע ושבחים ויאמרים,
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. Last paragraph on 110.
אור חדש על ציון העיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. אור חדש על ציון העיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך וברוך שמו.
יוצא המאורות.
Amen. We turn to the second blessing before the Shema on page 111, Ahava Rabbah.
Ahava Rabbah Avdanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chem Elach Dalav Yitzera, Chamal Daleinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Ba'avur Avodeinu, Shebarchu V'cha, Shebarchu V'cha, Avinu Malkeinu, V'tilamdim Chugei Chayim, K'dechanenu Lamedeinu, Avinu Avaracham, V'rachim Rachim Aleinu, V'dein B'libeinu Le'avin, V'avinu Haskil Lishma, V'limod U'lilamed, Lishmar v'lasod, u'likayim et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha, v'ahava, v'ha'er eineinu b'toratecha, v'dabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yachid livavinu, v'yachava, v'lira et shemecha, v'lo nevot, v'olam Va'ed v'lo nevot ve'olam va'ed Giv'shem Kodshecha Hagadol Hanora Ba'atavnu Nagila V'nismecha Nagila V'nismecha V'shuvatecha V'havienu V'shalom
Tzit.
Me'ariba ganivod haaretz v'tolicheinu k'hamimiyud li'artzeinu ki Uvanu vacharida mikola vilaja. Vigira vidanu. Leshim chagado. Sela. Beth Emet. Liod alecha. Liachedecha. Bi'ahava. Baruch Adonai.
Baruch Shema.
Habachir b'yamo Yisrael b'yahava.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'yahavetah Ehid Adonai Elohecha, v'chol avavecha u'v'chol nafshecha, v'chol me'odecha, v'yayu advarim ha'ile, asher anochi mitzavecha, yahom alevavecha, v'shinadam levanecha, v'ribaharta bam, v'shivnecha b'veitecha, v'lechnecha b'derech, v'shachmecha u'v'ikumecha, v'kashartam le'odayadecha, Vayadavod minecha, v'chedavidam abzuzot beitecha, v'visharecha.
Now we read the bottom paragraph on 112 and the top paragraph on 113 quickly and quietly. Jesus.
Adonai Elohechem emet, v'yatzip nachom agav. V'dovadahu k'yaham v'shma k'yaham, v'chison achol malchutoh, v'emanatoh l'adgayamet.
You may release the tzitzit.
Mahakenu melech avodeinu, golenu goel avodeinu, tzvenu tzoyeshoadeinu, hodenu matzilenu melam shimecha, Elohim zulatecha.
Page 114.
Ezra avodeinu atahu meolam, vayim Moshe lemecha. Emet, 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 atahu rishon. Emet, 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 atahu acharon. Uvi baladecha illa l'melech, melech goelu Moshiach. Uvi baladecha illa l'melech, melech goelu Moshiach.
ממצרים
Tilol Elyon, Baruch Mivurach, Moshe b'nei Yisrael, Chanu Shirah, B'simcha Rabba v'yamru chulam.
You are invited to rise.
Mi chamocha v'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha v'edar b'kodesh, Lor adilot, Sefer lev. Shira chadasha shebechlu gelim, L'shimchas v'adeham, Kachar kulam adovim lichu v'yamreu, Adonai yilach le'olam va'ed. Tzvah Yisrael, Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael v'dichnu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Go aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo Kiddush Yisrael Baruch Adonai
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
Yisrael.
Amen. The Amidah said silently and standing from page 115, A or B, skipping page 116. We'll get that in the repetition, the Kedusha, and continue 117 through 120. It's a silent prayer. You can add whatever is in your heart to whatever's on the page. The reader's repetition of the Amidah for Shachrit is found on page 115A, and you may remain seated if you like.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov El HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chazadim Dovim v'Gonei HaGol v'Zocher Chasdei Avon Mevi Goel Livnei Bneihem L'man Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozel Moshe L'Magin Baruch Adonai Magin Avraham
Amen.
Adonai Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechem Edihim Adar Rav Loshia Mashiva Ruach Morid Hagashem Mechal Kel Chayim Bechesed Bechayei Meitim Berachamim Rabim Samech Noflim V'Rafei Cholim Umatir Asurim Ubekayim Ebunatah Lishenei Avar Michamo Chaba Givurot Umido Melach Melech Mimi Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua Pnei Adalach Medim Baruch Adonai Bechayei HaMedim.
Amen. We turn to page 116. We rise for the Kedusha if we can.
Nikadesh et Shimcha ba'olam Geshem ze magdishim oto b'shmei marav Kagadu v'karazel ze v'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivot, Melech haaretz kvodo. Az b'chor gadol, Ane v'chazak, Mashvim go, Midnasim le'ulmatzirafim, le'umadam Baruch Yomeru,
Baruch Kivod Adonai Mimkomo.
Bimkom chamalkin l'tovia, V'timloch aleinu g'machakim anachnu lach, Madachedim l'hoch b'tzion, V'charhov b'yameinu le'lamed tishgon. Tidgadash, B'doch Yerushalayim Yirlecha, L'dor v'ador, L'nitzach nitzachim. V'eineinu tirena, tirena malchutecha, Kadavar ha'amor, B'shirei uzecha. V'eineinu tirena, tirena malchutecha,
Kadavar ha'amor b'shirei uzecha. Ayidei David, Ayidei David, Ayidei David, Mashiach tzidkecha. Ayidei David, Ayidei David, Ayidei David, Mashiach tzidkecha. Imloch Adonai le'olam, Chai Zion, L'dor v'ador, Hallelujah.
L'dor v'ador nagid gol lecha, L'netzach netzach v'neshadecha nagdish, Shivchacha hen mepin l'mosel avayel, Ki amelch v'kadosh Ata, Barach Ata Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue on page 117. You may be seated if you'd like.
Yismach Moshe b'madnach el gagi evet ne'eman karatalo kelil tiveret biro shonatata b'yamda levanecha al har Sinai shnei luchot avadim harid b'yahado v'chatuv bahem shemirat Shabbat v'chatuv bahem shemirat Shabbat v'chatuv bahem Shemirat Shabbat, v'chigatu b'toratecha. Shamru v'nei Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת, דרדם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. ביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. ולא נדעתו אדוני אלוהינו כלי עצות אלוהינו כלתו מקינו לבני וסהילים וגם מנוחתו לשכנו הרעילים כי בישראל עמך נדעתו באהבה לזרע יעקב אשר בם בחרת המקדש את שבי כולם יזבחו וידאגו בטובך ואשר עתית בו וקידשתו חסד עמך קראת זכר למעשה בראשית. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו רצי במנוחתנו קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. שמחנו בטובך, ושמחנו בשבועתך. וטהר ליבנו, יודך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו, ביחד וברצון, שבת קודשך, וינוחו בישראל. בקדשי שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני.
Baruch Baruch Shemo.
מקדש השבת.
Amen, page 118.
Ritzay, Adonai Eloheinu, B'macha Yisrael, Tefillah
V'Hashem,
Edavdali, V'irbetecha. Ritzay, Adonai Eloheinu, B'macha Yisrael, Tefillah
V'Hashem,
Edavdali, V'irbetecha, U'tefillata, B'yahavadeka, B'yobiratzahon, Liliratzon damid avodat Yisrael lamecha u'tefillata B'yahava teka b'beratzon Liliratzon damid avodat Yisrael lamecha
Ritzay,
V'techezena einenu b'shavcha l'tzom rachamim Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Baruch Shemo. Amen.
Modim אנחנו
לך שתענו.
אדם, כי לך רחמך ומרחמים, כי לא דמך שדך, ולעם גיבינו לך.
Middle of page 119.
ויהו כולם יתברך ויתרומם שמך מגן תמיד לעולם ועד, וכל החיים יודו סלע, והללו את שמך באמת. וישועתנו בעזרתנו סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני.
Baruch Baruch Shemo.
אדון שמך לכל להודו.
Amen.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, ברכנו בברכה, המשולשת בתורה, כתבה על ידי משה עבדך, אמורה מפי אהרון ובניו. כהנים על קדושך כאמור. יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
כן יהי רצון.
יאיר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך.
כן יהי רצון.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך ויעזים לך שלום.
כן יהי רצון. Page 120.
שים שלום טובה וברכה
בעולם
חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך. שים שלום טובה וברכה בעולם חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד בבניך, כביכול פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, תורת חיים יבוא חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום וטוב בינך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Baruch Shemo.
המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
Amen. We conclude Shacharit and head into the Torah service on page 138 with Kaddish Shalem.
Yikada Vigada Shemiraba.
Amen.
Vilmadi Rakude, Mikoko, Mekon, 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 Israel, Bagala, Bisman, Kari, Vigimro.
Amen. Yehesh me Rabba Mevora. Yolam Olam Elmaya.
Yid Barach. Yid Bavish Nabach, Yid Bavish Nabach, Save it, David, David, Shemid, Kudisha.
Brichu.
Eila Miko Bercha, David Shivada, Jubaka Dav Nechamada, Rabba Mavigimro.
Amen.
Tid Gabel Sodan Vada, Dukak Israel. Kadam on Ishmael, Vigimro.
Amen.
Dish Lam Shemaya, Vachayim Ali, Nuvakul Israel, Vigimro.
Amen.
Ose Shalom Bimramam, Uyase Shalom Aleinu, V'yalko Yisrael V'yimeru. Amen.
Shekoach. We are continuing with the Torah service. We'll begin on page 139.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, v'in k'ma'asecha, malechudecha, malechut, kol olamim, u'memshadecha b'chod harvadar. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imlach, ve'la'avohid, Adonai oz li'amo yitin, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Avarach amim etiva v'tzonecha et Zion. Tivnech omod Yerushalayim. Tivnech omod Yerushalayim. Kivicha Levad badachnu melech Ram v'nisa Adon olami. Vayibin Zohara Vayomer Moshe. This is how you know that services are live.
Yeah, we couldn't edit this stuff out.
Vayibit Aaron, Vayomer Moshe, Kruma Adonai, V'yafutu oyevecha, V'yanusu misanecha, V'banecha, Ki mitzion teitzei dora, Ki mitzion teitzei dora, Ulivar Adonai, V'Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Ve'amo Yisrael, V'Knushato.
We continue on page 140, second paragraph, Be'an Arachetz.
Akira, Anai Mardush Becha. Hey, it's not easy to open these ark doors. It'll foil the average rabbi. I just want you to know that, so,
I got a pretty good grade in door opening in rabbinical school.
Well, we're all the better for it, believe me.
Kama nafluha gedolim. Okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I was looking at the list of interesting things that happened to the Jewish people this week, and I have to say, this is a pretty good list. Nothing really bad on any day. So if it's not bad by us, that's good. February the 14th. Yes, it was St. Valentine's Day, but not so much in Israel. There we go with Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av is like the Israeli Valentine's Day. But what happened on February the 14th in 1949? The Knesset opened its first session in Israel. On February the 15th, 1798, the Jews of Rome removed their yellow badges. No more of this. You don't have to wear them anymore. February 16th, 1917, the first new synagogue in Madrid since 1492 was dedicated.
Wow.
Yeah, 1917. February the 17th, 1949, Chaim Weizmann was elected the first president of Israel. February 18th, 1980, this was a big thing. This is in our lifetime. The Israeli embassy in Cairo was opened.
When was that? February what?
February 18th, 1980.
Wow. It was on the 18th. Chai.
Yeah, it was on the 18th Chai, right? And on February the 19th, 1543, the House of Converts established for converted Jews in Rome. Now, I'm not sure what exactly that was. That might not be such a great thing. But they were keeping the Jews that converted to Christianity in their own little ghetto. So they didn't mix in with the real Christians, whatever, you know.
They were still able to shop wholesale, is what it was.
Yeah, they had some ritual, yes. And February the 20th, today's the 20th, the reorganized Jewish Theological Seminary of America received its new charter. That was in 1902. So 6 out of 7 positives, that's not bad at all. Well, hey kids, Purim's coming up. And you'll be getting more information about that. Well, Thursday night, we're going to be doing a Zoom Purim from this very room, the Zoom in the room. And we'll have some of your favorites. So make sure that you wear a costume and that you, if you can, decorate your face mask. Masks have a whole new meaning this year. It's hard to believe. We've been living with this pandemic for a full year. The coronavirus hit right before Purim last year, and 12 months later, our lives have been transformed in every way you can think of. But now we can start to see, and I think you've seen in the news, the beginning of the end is starting to happen. It's appropriate that the beginning of this pandemic and the beginning of its end are both framed by Purim. The name of the holiday means lots, and Haman drew lots to determine on which date the decree to order the massacre of the Jews by the Persians. Lots depend purely on chance. I think chance also means lots. I think when you say take a chance, you took a ticket called a chance, like you would take a lottery. So in the book of Esther, I just want to say very briefly, just to help get ready for that. Every significant turning point in the story of Esther happens just by happenstance. Just happens that Haman's outside the room when the king can't sleep. It just happens that Esther wins the beauty contest. everything just happens. So one lesson of the book of Esther is that our lives are often turned upside down in ways that you can't expect. One thing, however, is not a matter of luck. We get to choose how to respond to the events in our lives. Esther's hesitant to go before the king, and Mordecai says, who knows whether it's for a moment just like this that you arose to power. This could be, a great coincidence. This could be your moment. We face challenges, we can respond in different ways. We can respond with compassion, courage, and wisdom, seeking the welfare for all. Another way to respond, we can abdicate all responsibility altogether, allowing the chance nature of the moment to serve as a rationalization for inaction. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows if you do what you think is the right thing and it turns out bad? A lot of things are man-made disasters caused by people trying to help. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't help. But Esther does rise to the occasion, and we have the occasion here to rise to also. We're all fatigued by a year of COVID precautions. We're worn down. We feel like we're not in control of our lives, but we have some control. We get to choose how we respond. And I think we've done pretty well. We've adapted all the services to the internet. We've kept in touch with each other. People have been calling each other more. People have been in touch with other congregants and other friends and bringing them around. We've even gotten a new member or two during the year. So we're not doing so bad, kids. But we will continue. We will come through this, and we will experience stronger, wiser, and we'll be more connected than we ever were before. So at the end of the Purim story, we read that the Jews went from sorrow to gladness, from mourning to a good day, and I think that's our model, from dark to light. It's like Psalm 30 that I mention every time we do Psalm 30, that you can go to sleep crying and in the morning wake up joyful. So let's keep in mind that Purim is there for us, and we are there for Purim. Now today's Parsha is Parshat Truma. Not a lot of action. It takes us far afield, if you will, from the realm of drama, character, and conflict. The relationships between people that make up our stories. It's far afield from drama, but it's not far afield from theater. This is the parsha where we begin talking about the set, the physical appearance of where everything's going to take place. From the grandest scope to the smallest detail, we're told about this wonderful place where the contact with God is going to be maintained. And that's a funny thing. There's a blessing for when we pass by a place where a miracle happened. Thank you for doing that at that time in this place. Now, one place you would expect not only to have a blessing said, but you might expect an eternal shrine to be built there, seems not to be covered by this blessing. We don't have a blessing if you go to Sinai, arguably the holiest of locations. As a people, we encountered God directly at Sinai. However that happened, whether as the Midrash posits, we heard everything that God said that day, or we just heard the first letter, the silent aleph of Anochi, Hashem Elokecha. Sinai was the major event when the line between the human and the divine was blurred that day, and we all stood in the presence of God. I remember seeing you there. Tradition holds, as descendants of those who were there, we're supposed to view ourselves as having come out of Egypt and followed Moses to Sinai. And that's how we say at every Passover Seder. We're supposed to look at ourselves as if we ourselves came out of Egypt. And even those who join our tribe and come under the wings of the Shekhinah through conversion, once the conversion process is completed, they're supposed to see themselves as having been there, and we're supposed to see them as they were there too. There is no there's no discrimination. It's a story that captures the imagination that needs to be told every year. And as great as the story of the Exodus is, and we got the whole Passover to celebrate it, it's not the end or even the climax of the story. I mean, neither is walking through the Red Sea. It's Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. It's Sinai. It's at Sinai where a ragtag group of motley, tattered slaves became a people. The Midrash teaches that Sinai was chosen not because it was the greatest or tallest of mountains. It was chosen because it was the most modest, the shortest of mountains. God actually had to come a little further to meet us. This was a great chesed, a great act of kindness, because we were not exactly in a strong bargaining position. But what happened when we left Sinai? We packed up and left. The minute we left, Sinai lost its holiness. It was just a mountain again. God is holy. Where God is shown and revealed, that's the holy spot. But we don't make Sinai a shrine. So if Sinai is not a holy place anymore, what is? To the Israelites after Sinai, it was the tabernacle, the Mishkan. That's the holy space. We've gone through the phases of seeing how the commandments created holy behavior and how Shabbat created holy time. Now we enter holy space. I don't know, you ever see these coffee table books about the Mishkan? I mean, they go through all the details, and they have big 3D, some of them are even 3D pop-ups. One of them was put together by some very religious artists, and it's really beautiful if you like that kind of thing. But you don't have to see the tabernacle the way they saw it. This is part of the lesson. See, the Bible is not a picture book. It's not a comic book. It's not a Classics Illustrated. The Bible leaves things to your imagination. We don't know what exactly the Mishkan looked like, just like we don't know what Sinai looked like, what Moses, Abraham, Jacob, we don't know what they look like. They're not given their description. We don't know what Mount Sinai looked like, but we're told about the various parts of the Mishkan. We're told about the various parts of the tent so that we can know what they did in order to put it together. For example, we get the instructions to build an ark for the tablets of the law, what was the Ten Commandments. And incidentally, the shattered pieces of the first set are put in the ark with the whole ones. Now, there are as many ways of depicting the cherubs over the ark, cheruvim, whose wings spread over the Ark of the Covenant. There's as many versions of that as there are artists. Just as there's no descriptions of people, there's no way to actually know how the Mishkan or the Ark looked. We may know more about the temple, but since the destruction of the temple, for the second time in the year 70 of the Common Era, we moved the center of our worship to the synagogue and the home. The idea now is that you can make your home a beautiful place where God can visit. And you can do it a lot of different ways. There's no set description for adding an element of holiness to your home, a special book, a decoration in your home, whatever works for you. But you can do something for Hidur Mitzvah, to make the mitzvah of observing Shabbat a little bit prettier, a little bit nicer. You can do that. The Bible doesn't describe places or people. It leaves that up to us. The idea of paradise will look different to everybody. When we read these stories in the Torah, we can imagine Moses or Abraham looking like our personal heroes. Some people will think of actors, and others will imagine relatives, and still others leaders and heroes from other contexts. The chosen image will have the most powerful force imaginable because it is imagined. Radio drama is much more engaging than television drama because you have to picture everything that's going on in your head. I think it was Marshall McLuhan who considered radio a hot medium because you're so involved, and TV a cold medium because you just sit back and watch. When you read a good book and then you see the movie, is the casting of the movie ever as good as how you cast it in your head when you read it? Because one of the things you can do when you imagine people, you can imagine actors in their prime, not when they're in the 70s and 80s or 90s. You can picture a young Frank Sinatra, a young Yul Brynner, whatever, a young Justin Bieber. You can have people who never lived at the same time together in your imagination. And in the same way, holy space will be as different to different people as there are differences in the way that we think. So I guess the ultimate holy space is between your ears. What does God have to say about how you design the holy space to make him feel at home? Well, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. There's the story of the Kotzker Rebbe, who asked the people of the village, where can we find God? And they answered, they thought that he wanted to hear. They started saying, well, God is everywhere, Rebbe. God is everywhere. And he replied, no, not quite. God's everywhere, you let him in. So I'm hoping that in your house that you're in right now and in your head are places to let God in. And with that, we'll just say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Yashikol.
Baruch Tiyah. And now, it's time to get out your big red chumash, or whatever chumash you have. We turn to Truma, and it's on page 491. Oh, not too bad. All right. Okay. 491, Exodus chapter 26, verse 1, down at the bottom of the page if you have the Eitz Chaim. We have come to the parsha that some call an architect's dream, a detailed description of the building known as the tabernacle, the Mishkan, the place where God will cause his presence to be known among Israel. So if you want an actual photograph of the Mishkan, look at page 1520 and 1521. Okay, it's a drawing. But there is a visual representation of the Mishkan. The components of this structure were donated in love to the Levites, who would then take them and perform various actions, resulting in the tent of meeting coming together. It was portable, if complex, and was taken along with the Israelites to every place they encamped. Here we have a set of instructions as to how to make it happen. Then you can read all about the kinds of woods and the metal that were used in the Mishkan. And up to the beginning of the part we read, we see the instructions for the ark and the menorah. Now in our first Aliyah, chapter 26, verse 1, page 491, here we have the instructions for the inner sanctum and the lowest layer of the tabernacle. That's page 491, verse 1 at the bottom there.
Beth Mishkan Tase Eser Yiriyot Shesh Morzor V'Decheled Vargamad V'Tolat Shani Kiruvi Maseh Choshev Tase Otam Orech HaYiriyah HaChat Shmoneh V'Esrim Bama V'Rochav Arba Bama Yiriyah Echad Midachat L'Chol HaYiriyot Chamish Yiriyot Tiena Chovrot Isha El Achota Chamish Riyad Chovrot Isha El Achota.
Okay. The second Aliyah starts on page 492 with verse 4. How do you build a curtain? How do you make the clasps for the loops?
Ve'asita lulaot techelet asevat eriyah echad mikatza b'chovaret v'chein daseh b'svat eriyah hagitzona b'machberet hashenit chamishim lulaot daseh b'eriyah echad chamishim lulaot daseh b'ktzei eriyah asher b'machberet hashenit makbilot halulaot isha el achodah Ve'asita chamishim karsei zahav וחיברת את היריות אל אחותה בכרסים והמשכן האחד.
Okay. You can see the pieces coming together. You can see a computer generated animation of this. Would be kind of interesting. The next aliyah also starts on page 492 with verse 7. Here we have the next layer in the building of the tabernacle.
ועשית יריות עזים לאוהל על המשכן, 12 יריות עשה אותם אורך, ירייה אחת, 30 באמה ורוחב 4 באמה, ירייה אחת, מידה אחת ל12 יריות, וחיברת את 5 יריות לבד, ואת 6 יריות לבד, וכבלת את הירייה השישית אל מול פני האוהל. ועשית 50 לולאות, על סביבת ירייה אחת, הקיצונה בחוברת, 50 לולאות, על סביבת הירייה החוברת השנית, ועשית כרסי נחושת 50, והבאת את הכרסים בלולאות, וחיברת את האוהל, והיה אחד.
And we continue with the description. We're getting into the third and fourth layers in the next couple of aliyot. I'm not going to say a whole lot in between here, but right now we're on page 493, verse 12.
וסרח העודף ביריות האוהל, חצי הירייה העודפת, תסרח על אחורי המשכן, ועמד מזה בעודף, באורך קריות האוהל, יהיה שרוח, על צידי המשכן מזה לכסותו, ועשית מכסה לאוהל, אורת אלים אדמים, ומכסה אורות דחשים מלמעלה.
And we continue 493, verse 15.
ועשית את הכרסים למשכן עד 60 עומדים, 10 אמות אורך הקרש, ואמה וחצי אמה רוחב הקרש האחד, 2 ידות לקרש האחד, משולבות אישה אל אחותה, כן תעשה לכל קרשי המשכן, ועשית את הכרסים למשכן, 20 קרש, לפת נגבה תימנה, 40 אדני כסף תעשה, תחת 20 הקרש, 2 אדנים, תחת הקרש האחד לשתי ידותיו, ושני אדנים תחת הקרש האחד לשתי ידותיו, ולצל המשכן השנית לפת צפון, 20 קרש, 40 אדניהם כסף, 2 אדנים, תחת הקרש האחד, ושני אדנים תחת הקרש האחד.
Okay, we're on verse 22 on page 494.
וירקתי המשכן ימה תעשה 6 קרשים, ושני קרשים תעשה למקוצות המשכן, בירכתיים, והיו תואמים מלמטה ויחדיו, יהיו תואמים על ראשו, על הטבעת האחת, כן יהיה לשניהם לשתי המקצות יהיו, והיו 8 קרשים, ואדניהם כסף 16 אדנים, 2 אדנים תחת הכרס האחד, ושני אדנים תחת הכרס האחד.
And the last aliyah, verse 26, also on 494. No, there's one more after that. By the way,
Well, we're still doing 26.
yeah.
Yeah, then we got them off here.
Oh, yeah, 26, 22, right?
We just did 22 through 25.
Oh, okay, fine.
So we're doing number 26 through 30. That's Shavi.
I think it's Karish.
Karish?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. ועשית אבריחים עצי שיטים 5 לקרשי סלע המשכן אחד, ו5 אבריחים לקרשי סלע המשכן השני, ו5 אבריחים לקרשי סלע המשכן לארכתיים ימה, והבריח התיכון בתוך הקרשים, מבריח מן הקצה אל הקצה,
vet hakrashim, titzap ezav, vet tabotehem, das ezav batim la brichim, v'tzi pita et abrichim zahav, v'akimota et hamishkan, kemishbato asher her'eta bar.
Okay. For more details, you can read the rest of the Parsha. Okay. And before we get into the Haftorah,
What's the maftir?
oh, right, we have a special maftir today, right. Today is Shabbat Zachor. It's always the Shabbat right before Purim. It's the second of 4 special Shabbatot that lead up to Pesach. It's named after the first word in the maftir. The reading comes from Deuteronomy 25, chapter 17 through 19. And what that's about is Amalek's cowardly attack on the weak and the weary of the people Israel as they traveled in the wilderness. The people Israel is commanded to remember what Amalek did and to blot out his name. Now, it's sort of an ironic thing. We're commanded to blot out his name because of that. We're the only ones who remember Amalek. The rabbis prescribed that we fulfill this commandment once a year by reading this passage from a Torah scroll. And they chose the Shabbat before Purim to connect blotting the name out of Amalek to the Purim practice of blotting the name of Haman, who was a descendant of Amalek. So there's a tie-in in the history of the characters. So we are on the maftir is Devarim, Deuteronomy 25:17, and let me just see here. Yes, Kitetsei, Kitavo. No. Yeah, here we go. Right, on page 1135 in the 8th line.
And I dedicate this maftir and haftorah to my daughter Danielle. This is the 5th anniversary of her bat mitzvah. So she will be the magic 18 real soon.
So she's going to be voting.
What?
She'll be voting,
Yeah, next election.
yeah.
Zachor eid asher asa lecha Amalek baderech betzedchem miMitzrayim asher karcha baderech v'zaniv becha kol nechashalihi macharecha batayith v'yagea v'lo yarei Elohim v'yah baniach Adonai Elohecha lecha mikol oivecha misaviv ba'aretz asher Adonai Elohecha notei lecha nachala l'rishta Timche et zecher Amalek mitachar hashamayim laho tishkach.
And that will be our Torah reading for the day. Now we have, before we get to Torah, we are going to say our Misha Berach prayer.
And we offer special prayers to all of those needing healing in our community. And I want to also offer a special mention of Irit Chapnik. I want to offer her
Right.
special prayers as well.
Mishimeirach avoteinu mikor habiracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishibeirach imotenu mikor habiracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing, with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Okay, take a breath.
Zachor. It's a good thing I remember it. I'm going to be reciting the whole Haftorah. It's traditional for the Ashkenazim to begin on the second sentence bet, but My daughter learned the first sentence, so in her honor, I'm going to do that as well.
I didn't want to mention it, but I was curious.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first sentence of the Parsha, of the Haftarah, is on page 1281, 1281. And this is the story that connects the story of Samuel and Saul, and eventually David, to Mordecai, Esther, Ahasuerus, and Haman. Boo!
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'neviim tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hanemarim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abachir b'torah v'Moshe avdo v'Yisrael amo v'niviyei hamet v'tzedek. Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul oti Shalach Adonai limshachach lemelech alamo al Yisrael v'ata Shema lekol divrei Adonai kol amar Adonai tzvaot pakaditi eid asher asa malek l'Yisrael asher samlo baderech ba'alodo miBitzrayim ata lech v'kita et Amalek v'charamtem et kol asher lo v'lo tachmol alav v'himata me'ish ad isha me'olel v'ad yonek mishor v'ad tzeh migamal v'ad chamor v'yishama Shaul et ha'am v'ivkidim batlaim matahim elef raglim v'aseret alavim et ish Yehuda v'yavo Shaul adir Amalek Vayarev banachal, vayomer Shaul el hakini lechu, suridu mitoch Amaleki, venosivcha imo ve'ata, asita chesed, im kol b'nei Yisrael balotah miMitzrayim, vayasar keni mitoch Amalek, vayach Shaul et Amalek, mechavila boacha shor, asher al pnei Mitzrayim, vayitbos et Agag melech Amalek chai, v'et kol ha'mecharim lefi charev, vayachmo Shaul v'ha'am al Agag, v'al medabatzor, v'abakar v'amishnim v'al hakarim, v'al kol hatov v'lo avu acharimam, v'kol ha'melacha, Nemivza v'nameis otay acherimu, v'yehi divar Adonai el Shmuel lemor, nichamti ki imlachti et Shaul lemelech, ki shav me'acharai v'divarai lo hekim, v'yichar lishmuel v'yizak el Adonai kol halayla, v'yashkem Shmuel likrat Shaul baboker, v'yugad lishmuel lemor, Bashaul Carmela, Vine Matziv lo Yad, Vayisol Vayavor, Vayired Hagil Gal, Vayavo Shmuel el Shaul, Vayomer lo Shaul, Baruch atah Adonai, Hakimoti et Duvar Adonai, Vayomer Shmuel Umer, Kol Atzon Hazeh Boznai, V'kol Abakar Asher Anochi Shomeya. Vayomer Shaul me'amaleki hevium asher chamalam al metav atzon bakar leman zivoach l'Adonai Elohecha v'dayoter hecheramnu. Vayomer Shmuel Shaul herev v'agida lecha eid asher diber Adonai Elai halayla vayomer lo daber. Vayomer Shmuel halo Im katon ata benecha rosh, shivtei Yisrael ata, v'im shachach Adonai lemelech al Yisrael, v'ishlachach Adonai badarech, vayomer, lech v'hacharamta, et hachatayim et Amalek, v'nilchamta avo, ad kalotamotam, v'lama lo shamata b'kol Adonai, v'tat, El hashalal v'tasarah b'nei Adonai, vayomer Shaul el Shmuel, asher shamati b'kol Adonai, va'elech b'derech asher shalachani Adonai, Vavi, et Agag melech Amalek, et Amalek hecherabdi. Vayikacham, mehashalal, tzonevakar, reshit hacherem, Lizboach, Adonai Elohecha, Bagilgal, Vayomer Shmuel, Hachefetz Adonai, Bolod Zvachim, Kishmoa, Bekol Adonai, Hine Shimoa, Mizevach Tov, Lakshiv, Mechelev Elim, Ki Chatad Kesem Meri, Ve'aven Utrafim, Havtzar Yahan, Maasta, et Devar Adonai, Vimascha Mimelech, Vayomer Shaul Shmuel Chatati, Ki avarti et pi Adonai v'tevarecha, ki yareti v'edaham, et aham v'eshmaha b'kolaham, v'ata sana et chatati v'shuvimi v'shtachaver l'Adonai, Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul lo ashuvimach, ki ma'asta devar Adonai, v'mascha Adonai, miyot melech al Yisrael, Vayisov Shmuel alechet, v'chazek bichnach me'ilo, v'ikara, vayomer elav Shmuel, kara Adonai, et mamlechut Yisrael me'alecha hayom, v'nitana, v'reacha hatov mimeka, v'gaham, netzach Yisrael lo yishaker v'lo yinachim, ki lo adamu v'hinachim, vayomer chatati atah, Kabdini na neged ziknei ami v'neged Yisrael v'shuvimi v'ishtacha v'iti l'Adonai Elohecha v'yashav Shmuel acharei Shaul v'ishtachu Shaul l'Adonai v'yomer Shmuel hagishu elai et Agag melech Amalek v'elech elav Agag ma'adanot v'yomer Agag achein sarmar hamaved v'yomer Shmuel Kasher shigla nashim charbecha, kedishkal binashim imecha, v'yishasiv, Shmuel et Agag lifnei Adonai, Bagilgal, v'yelech Shmuel haramata v'Shaul, ala el beito, givat Shaul. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzar kol olamim, zadik b'chol dorot, Ha'elan emad omer Yosef, medaber mekayim, shikol divarav emet vatzek, ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ne'emanim divarecha, v'divarecha midvarecha, kol yashuv rigam, ki hamelech ne'eman b'rachamana, baruch atah Adonai, ha'elan emad b'chol divarav, rachim atziyam ki beit chayinu, v'laluvat nefesh toshiach b'mirav yamedu, baruch atah Adonai, Misamer Tziachon b'panecha, Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu, B'reachon avi avdecha, V'malchut Beit David Mishichecha, B'mirai avav v'yageli b'inu, Ha'gizah ha'la yishev zar, V'lein chalu ha'acherim et kivodo, Ki b'shem gojecha nishbad alahu, Shalech b'nei ra'av v'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Magid David, HaTorah v'yalavodah v'yal-nevi'im, V'yayom ha'shabbat hazeh, she'nadat alanu Adonai Eloheinu, l'igdor shavlim nochaha, l'chavod u'tivaret, ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu madim l'hach, mivarchim otach b'ras shimcha, b'fi kol chai, tamid le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh ha'shabbat. Amen. So again, Mazel Tov, Danielle, on your Yom Haledet, on your birthday.
Happy birthday. Well, we now turn to page 148. And we'll read the last paragraph on the page as a prayer for our country. May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה, לא יסגו אל גוי חרב, ולא ילמדו עוד מלחמה, ונאמר Makor HaChaim, source of all life, we ask for a quick end to hostilities around the world, including domestic and foreign places, and the swift and safe return of our young men and women to their homes, and let us all say.
Amen.
And a prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzor Yisrael v'go'alo, Barech Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Gulatenu. Hagen eleha be'erat chastecha, ufros aleha sukat shlomecha. Ushlach orcha v'yamitcha l'rosheha, soreha v'yoetzeha. V'taknem be'etzat tova milfanecha. Chazek et yidei mignei eretz kodshenu, v'anchilem Eloheinu Yeshua, v'yateret nitzachon tiatrem. V'natata shalom ba'aretz, v'simchat olam liyoshveha, v'nomar, Amen. And I guess it's Ashrei time.
Ashrei Yoshvei V'itecha Odi Hallelujah Selah.
Page 151. Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohav.
Tila l'David Amimecha Elohai HaMelech Baruch Hashemcha Le'olam Va'ed.
B'chol yom avachecha, v'alel hashemcha li'olam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai Me'ulam Yehud V'ligralato Ve'in Cheikem.
Dor lidor yishabach ma'asecha, u'gvurotecha yagidu.
Adar Givar Hadecha V'divrei Nivlodecha Azicha.
Be'ezuz norotecha yomeru, u'gedulatcha saprena.
V'yichirav Divrei Habil V'tzidkatecha Yiraneinu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim u'gedal chesed.
Yidov Adonai L'hakol V'rachamav Al Kol Ma'asav.
Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yivachucha.
Yivod Malachutecha Yamehiru Gevuratecha Yidabehiru.
Yehudia livnei ha'adam gevurotav, u'chivod hadar malchuto.
Malachutecha Malachut Galalabim Memzadecha Bechol Dorvador.
Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim, v'zokef l'chol hakufim.
Imecha Elecha Yisaviru V'atanotei Lahem B'tochlam B'ito.
Teach et yadecha, u'masbiya l'chol charotzon.
Tzadik Adonai B'chadiracha V'chasi B'chol Ma'asav.
Karov Adonai l'chol korav, l'chol asher yikru v'emet.
Ritzot Nireya V'yahase V'yet Shabbat HaMishma V'yoshi.
Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav, v'et kol rishayim yashmid.
Elad Adonai Yidaber V'yivarech B'azar Shem Kol Sholel Ba'ed.
V'anachnu
V'anachnu Nivarech Ya Me'ad
Me'ad
Aviyad Olam. Hallelujah. Livnecha Yehovah. Kilekach Kav Natati Lachem, V'atiyad Ha'asavu, Eitz Chaimi, V'amachazeki Ba, V'dam Elchecha, Me'ushar, V'rachecha, Darchina, V'chad Netivotecha, Shalom, Hashiveinu, Adonai, Eilecha v'nafshuva, Chodesh, Chodesh Yameinu, Chodesh Yameinu, Kikedesh.
We continue on page 155 with the Hatzi Kaddish that ends the Torah service and brings us into the Musaf. 155.
Yekadav Yekadav Shemi Rabba.
Amen.
Yamad Yifrachu Dev Yamlich Malchutei.
Chayecha
B'chayecha V'yomecha. V'chayedecha V'Yisrael. Bagala, Bagala. V'dizman
Amen.
Yishmei Rabba Mivorach, Leolam Alame Almaya, Yidbarach, Yidbarach Vishtabach, Vidbar Vidman Vidnase Vidhadar, Vidhale Vidhalal Shemete Kudeshah,
Brichu.
Vihila Mika Birachata Vishirada,
Tushbecha Tavinechem Ata,
Damiram Bioma Vimrel.
Amen. We'll pray together for the Musaf Amidah on page 156b, and we'll say the Kedusha out loud together on 157, and then we continue silently from page 158 to 161.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Hayel HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Ramel Chazadim Tovim V'Ganei HaGahol V'Zacher Chazdei Avot V'Mei V'Goel Livnei V'Nehem Leman Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozel V'Gid Moshiach U'Magid
Again.
Baruch Atah Adonai Magid Avraham V'Gid Sarah Ada Gibor V'Elam Adonai B'Chemedi Mahada Rav Hoshia Mashiva Ruach Marid HaGashem Bechal Kel Chayim B'Chesed B'Chayim Eitim B'Rachamim Rabim Shamech Naflim Ravei Cholim U'Madir Asurim U'Mekayim Emunata L'Shenei Afar Michamocha B'Givurot U'Midah Melach Melech Mimit U'Michael U'Mazmiach Yeshua V'Neman Adal HaChayot Meitim Baruch Atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Mechei HaMeitim.
Amen. Page 157.
Naharitzecha v'nahagdishecha kisot ziyach sarvi kodesh hamagdishim shimcha b'kodesh kakadu ayad neviecha v'garazel zeviyamar kadosh 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 Adonai Tzivot, Melech Haaretz Kivodo, Kivoda, Mahali Olam, Mesharita Shalim Zelazeh, Hayim Igom Kivodo, Liumadam Baruch Yomeru, Baruch Kivodonai Mimkomo, Mimkomo, Livem Berachamim, V'yachonam, V'yachonam Yachadim Shemo. V'chayom Damir, V'amayim Yava, Shema Homim, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Eloheinu, Avinu, Malkeinu, Moshienu, Yashmienu, Sheni,
Le'enei kol chai, V'yalachem le'Elohim.
Ani Adonai Elohechem,
U'v'divre kol shecha katuv le'mar,
Yimloch Adonai Olam, Melech Tzion, V'dor Hallelujah.
V'dor v'adonai ged kol le'acha, V'netzach netzach v'neshanecha nagdish, Shivcha chalohen mepin l'moshe l'moed, Ki yomelch kol v'kadosh, Ata, Barach, Ata Adonai.
Baruch Shemo.
Ha'el HaKadosh.
Amen. 158 to 161. And we end the Musaf and head into our concluding prayers on page 181 with Kaddish Shalem. Amen.
Yesh meira b'mevorach, v'yolam maya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'shtabach, yitbarach v'nasir, v'darvin v'nal shemid v'kudashah.
Brichu.
Le'lam yikol berchadav v'shivadav, v'chadav v'nachmadav, amirom elam v'yimeru.
Amen.
Tid kabel sotan v'odon d'chol Yisrael. Kadam v'hod mishmaya v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yesh tamar rabba mishamaya v'chaim alinu v'akol Yisrael v'yimeru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mramav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael,
V'imru, imru, amen.
Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Kol Yisrael.
Amen. Page 182, Ein Kelohenu.
Ein Kelohenu, Ein Gadonenu, Ein Kemalkenu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Kelohenu, Mi Gadonenu, Mi Kemalkenu, Mi Kemoshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shekhiru, Avodeinu, Lifanecha
Eketoret Hasami. Page 183, Aleinu L'Shabeach.
Aleinu L'Shabeach,
Ladon HaKol, Latet Gedula Liotzer Breshit. Asanu Kegaya Ratsa. Samanu Kimshachot Adama. Sam Chelkenu Kahem. Kechol Amonam. Karim. Malchei HaMelachim. Dosh Baruch Hu. Hu noteh shamayim v'yosei haaretz. Yikaro b'shamayim ima'al. Uzo shvinar uzo b'gavei miromim. Hu Eloheinu ein od. Emar ya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz. Ahu v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad. Shemo u'shemo echad. You may be seated. In solemn testimony to the unbroken faith which links one generation to the next, those in mourning or observing a yurtzeit will in one moment rise to praise God's name with the words of the mourner's Kaddish on page 184. But first, yurtzeits observed this week include David Bialis, Gertrude Brookler, Ruby Fisher, Harry Aaron Illians, Abraham Schwartz, Barnett Sokol, Phoebe Sokol, Mary Soroki, Harry Tefansky. February 21st, Adar 9, Maurice Brandstatter, Edith Farber, Annette Feldman, Henrietta Jackman, Michael Kaplan, Isaac Kessler, Lester I. Rodman, Nathan Silverberg, Heshmat Zahabian, Adar 10, Dr. John Blake, Paul Cohen, Leon Cutler, Alvin Samuel Dunner, Farrell Keston, Lena Manowitz, Goldie Rosner, and Rose Ella Rubin. Adar 11, Harry Chussard, Sophie Feldman, Brian Michael Levick, Esther Levick, Charlene Sealer, Helene Yamron, Leon Zakowski. Adar 13, Howard Stanley Greenberg, Helen Horowitz, Kareem Kahali, Sheldon Samuel Pine, and Adar 14, Rose Budger, David Joseph Fine, Evelyn Geller, Samuel Leibowitz, Isidore Mintz, Stanley Mitnick, Anna Netzer, Isidore William Perlman, Donald Pressman, Dr. Herbert Simon, Florence Starrow, and I, Harry Stein. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 184. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Biolma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'gala v'zman kari v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach li'olam olomei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalah shmei d'kudsha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Amiron b'yoma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. And now please rise for Kiddush.
V'shamiru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asod et ha-Shabbat, v'dorahu damri dolam be'eni, u'vein b'nei Yisrael ahoti, v'olam kishesh adamim, asa Adonai et ha-shamayim et ha'aretz, u'vayom ha'shvi, Shabbat v'yinafash, hakim berach Adonai dem ha-Shabbat v'yikadasheho, Safrai marnam rabbanan rabbotai.
Chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Amen.
פותח את ידיך ומסביר לכוחי רצון, ברשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ.
Amen.
New batch.
Ah, very good.
Okay.
I guess you can expect a new batch just in time for Pesach, right?
The timing will be perfect, I'm sure. I seem to have lost a sheet of announcements, but I have most of them, so I don't know what happened. I don't know how, we made a break for it, I guess. A brave little piece of paper going out there in the world, not having the rest of its friends around. At any rate, there will be no happy hour this Thursday, February 25th, but there will be Purim on the Zoom. We expect to have it all for you, the reading of the Megillah, costumes, wear a costume, you'll be on Zoom, face mask decorating contest. We're figuring out how we're going to vote for that, so it'll be a public choice. So stay tuned and watch the emails for the Zoom link. Local members will be receiving Shlachmanot packages, so you can pick up your Shlachmanos package when you pick up your Hamantashen or the stock-mounted packages will be delivered to you. We'll leave them on your doorstep, ring the bell, then we'll run away, so there's no,
That pickup, I believe, is from 10 to 12, 10 to noon on Tuesday.
I think you're, yeah.
Yeah. So make a note of that. If you order Hamantashen, they'll be available to you here at the synagogue, probably in the parking lot. I'm not exactly sure the distribution, but I know it's going to be from 10 to noon on Tuesday. And you can also pick up your Mishloach Mano package then as well.
Right. The Mitzvah Day All Year Round Committee will have a food drive for the month of February. It's already started. We have big bins in the office. You can bring non-perishable food to the office any day, Monday through Friday from 10 to 2. And on February 28th, Sunday, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., you can drop off food. We're going to have the barrels out, I think, closer to the parking lot. Monetary donations are also welcome. Contact Nancy Levin or Ruth Wilkoff for more information. There was a note that says that canned food is not needed, but canned food is as acceptable as anything else. If what you got to give is canned food, give canned food. Women's League is still accepting the Count Your Blessings contribution, so count your blessings and contribute. Saturday, March the 6th. Zev and I are taking the Shabbos off, and there will be Rabbi Marcia Tilchin and cantorial soloist Jason Fetty will be conducting our live stream morning services. It will also be marking the highest refugee Shabbat, and there'll be details of that are in the details of that are in your email that you got yesterday. Sunday, March 7th, the Women's League gift shop is having a Passover sale from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay. Now, there was some, that's what I've got, but everything that, all the announcements are in the email that I sent out yesterday. So let me just see if there's anything else here in the tidings that needs to get. No, Purim. There's something on the 11th of April.
Yeah, it's a Women's League something or other.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a Women's League, like a program where they're going to have professional singers entertain us.
Right.
So,
Sing-along.
Sing-along or something like that.
And Women's League Shabbat is April 25th. Okay.
It's good to know.
Yeah. Noteworthy dates. Okay. Okay. If I've left anything out, my deepest apologies, and just check out that email for anything that I might have missed. And now, let's take it home. Page 187.
Adon Olam,
Hashem Olah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, v'nasa b'hefzo kol,
Hazai melech
shemo
shemo
nikra.
Adon Olam,
Hashem Olah, b'terem kol yitzir nivra,
v'nasa
b'hefzo
b'hefzo
kol,
kol, Hazai melech
shemo
shemo
nikra.
v'yacharei,
V'yacharei,
kiklot hakol, alevadayim loch
nora.
והוא היה, והוא עובר, והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם השם עליו, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ונשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, והוא אחד, ואין שני, להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה. אדון עולם השם עליו, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ונשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, והוא אלי, וחי גואלי, ותרחם לי ביצרה, והוא ניסי, ולמנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. אדון עולם השם עליו, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ונשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, בידו
אף תדרוכי, בית אישה יאירה, ימרוכי גבייתי, אדוני ולא אירא.
אדון עולם השם עליו,
בטרם כל יציר נברא,
ונשא
וחפצו
כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. שבת שלום.
And Purim Sameach.
Purim Sameach.